In 2020, every single MLB franchise will once again extend netting at their ballparks across the country to better protect paying customers. Now, you'd think most fans wouldn't mind, considering what's at stake. But reaction to any additional obstruction between the seats and the field of play is mixed at best. In just a second, 5 things you need to think about regarding protective netting. But first, a recent tweet of mine, and then some responses it brought. This is from December 17th, 2019. Protective netting should go as far as reasonably possible at every MLB ballpark and then some. No offense to the paying customer, but teams and players are trying to protect you, the fans, who are getting closer and more distracted than ever. Disagree? I'd love to hear why. Pure Adrenaline wrote, some think they can catch every ball or bat that comes their way, but in the blink of an eye, a baseball or bat that is tipped in the stands makes it very difficult to react to, let alone a foul ball right at your face at 110 miles per hour. Players will tell you they should also protect the dugouts. I don't disagree, and I think you've seen some of those enhancements to big league dugouts, moving players a little bit back further from the field, also protective netting, so it makes it even difficult for a baseball to enter the dugout. Dan saying, I don't disagree, but people should be a little bit more heads up in public. Why do we need to baby-proof life for every idiot in the world? I'm willing to pay attention to watch a game with less netting, though not less than what they use now. Certainly not more. Callie saying here, you want to keep fans from getting too close? Give every stadium foul ground like the Coliseum. Callie, be careful what you wish for, right? There's a reason the Coliseum has been so unique over the years. Carlos saying here, question, do you think the netting will make fans sitting in areas still prone to the foul ball and pop-ups have an exaggerated sense of safety and become even more distracted, thus making injuries increase? Look, that's a great hypothetical, but I just think the obvious is the difference between a pop-up, which takes a lot longer to come towards your seat, and everybody also has the opportunity around you to kind of make a big deal of the fact that a baseball's coming, versus the split second or less that everybody gets to react to a screamer. James here saying, for fan safety, we should have netting. To me, the only negative is the loss of the fan experience. Will players still be able to give out third out and warm up baseballs? How about sign autographs? James, I fully agree with that, and I have some thoughts that are coming up just a little bit later. Steven said, I'm amazed at how many people pay good money to go to a game and spend the whole time on their phones or talking about work. Meanwhile, those of us that want to watch the game have to look through a net on the first deck to protect their sorry asses. Oh, Steven, going hard there, buddy. And last but not least, Tracy said here, I hated it at first because I'm selfish, and then I realized there is no way my 71-year-old mom could ever get out of the way that fast. I saw the 4-year-old child get hurt, and I changed my stance forever. I went to the White Sox/A's game at Guaranteed Rate Field, and the nets were no big. All right, let's get into some personal perspectives here. Number one, if the average big league game sees about 275 pitches thrown, honestly, how many of them do you watch? 175 at best? And what about everybody else? There are beers and conversations and kids and food and smartphones and a jumbotron, just way too much competition for your attention, which has increased over the years. Meanwhile, the distance between your seats and the batter's box, that has decreased over the years. Fans are closer now than ever and much more distracted than ever. And some of you may be watching this in your 20s and feeling invincible on life. Okay, fine. But like was commented there, what about your eventual 2-year-old child or your parents in their 70s? Baseball can't just protect all of you weekend Gold Glove softball players out there alone. Number 2, baseballs aren't the only objects leaving the field of play. We've unfortunately seen it too much over recent seasons, the remnants of broken bats helicoptering towards a fielding player, or even worse, flying unpredictably into the stands. As if the rounded barrel, which was obviously designed for impact, wasn't bad enough, think about the opposite side, which is heading towards the seats. It's splintered and sharpened, and obviously ready to do some unprecedented damage. Protective netting, at least to the ends of the dugout, isn't only meant for baseballs, and we shouldn't forget that. Number 3, with full-fledged netting, how exactly do we accommodate timeless baseball traditions, like getting autographs from players or having a player toss their warm-up pearl into the stands? Or what about fans that simply do want to take a risk and get that close to the action? I do eventually think that baseball will mature and evolve and understand ways to accommodate everyone. Maybe the nets become retractable before and after games. Maybe marketing gets smart here and employs a danger section like they have in Japanese baseball, complete with helmets and gloves provided for protection. Much as some fans do feel like netting is becoming a restriction and like it's taking away from the experience, maybe there are some great ways we can all actually benefit from this a couple years down the road. Number 4, we know how teams feel, we know that MLB is behind the cause, and we know there's mixed reaction among the fans. But the players, they are almost entirely in unison for better protecting those in the seats. And that's because none of them want to end up like Cubs outfielder Albert Almora Jr., who hit a liner directly off the head of a 2-year-old little girl in Houston last season. Forget lawsuits and repercussions. Players don't want the risk of guilt for the rest of their lives, that they may have seriously injured or killed a fan while just doing a regular part of their job in fouling off a pitch. Number 5, if protective netting does eventually extend all the way to the foul poles in every big league park, one thing we'll have to take into consideration is how defensive players in the field are impacted and how it will ultimately affect gameplay. Think about their ability to make a grab going into the stands and remaining safe in the process. This is all kind of an unknown, and it's untested and uncharted territory. Sure, great minds will be in part of the design process and implementation, but we really won't know how baseball games and strategy are actually affected until a full season plays out with the full scale of netting. In conclusion, I mentioned before that all 30 MLB teams are reportedly adding additional protective netting for the 2020 season, but let's be clear, there is still no MLB rule on any of this. Obviously, ballparks are unique. That's what makes baseball special, but that's also what makes it difficult to standardize protection from one yard to another. Fenway Park and the Oakland Coliseum, as tweeted about before, are night and day in terms of proximity from the seats to home plate. So common sense has to prevail here in what makes sense and what ultimately is at stake. I'd love to know your thoughts on this topic. Let me hear them in the comments section below.